Test. 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 No. Be enabled.
So they're still not collecting. Yeah, those are two. It's just little. And like everybody else, because everything's expensive, and like contracts get 4 times a year, and that's everything. Every concrete, asphalt, electric, groceries, trucking. Let me go back.
How are you? Good to see that smiling face.
Does it mean our screen's blurred?
Oh, you teaching all?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
You're punchy tonight. I like it. That's good. It's a good way to deal with stress. Yeah, it's gotta be. It's gotta be better than the alternative. I thought alcohol was called masking. But alcohol is masking. That, yeah.
So what else?
Isn't there like a firefighter chant they can all do or something, like a sing along? Like the Boy Scouts do stuff. Well, the Boy Scouts do it. I think maybe the firefighters could do it too.
so we don't have a fire. What? No, they're just normal. They're just normal.
No. I mean,
Oh, I'm just gonna say they're the Caltrans, the ones that stand next to cars. 5 miles an hour. Oh.
Good evening. Today is Tuesday, October 4, 2022. The time is 6 p.m. and we are resuming the open session of our regular meeting, the following of which will come to order. The Victorville City Council and the same council also sitting as the Victorville Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency, the City as Housing Assets successor, Joint Powers Financing Authority, and the Victorville Water District. Madam Clerk, will you kindly call the roll?
Councilmember Becerra.
Here.
Councilmember Gomez.
Buenas tardes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Present.
Mayor Jones.
Here.
We have quorum.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, moving on to closed session announcements by our city attorney, Mr. DeBornowski.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. We had one item this evening. It was existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D1. It involved litigation between David Stapleton as S&E Part LLC versus Southern California Logistics Airport Authority. At this time, I am reporting that on a vote of 3-1 with Councilmember Gomez voting no, the council has agreed, or sitting as the board of directors of the airport authority, has agreed to a settlement with the Stapleton Group in the amount of $2.5 million. And they have already signed their settlement intent sheet. And the executive director of the airport authority is authorized on behalf of the authority to sign those documents when they're finalized.
All right, thank you, Mr. DeBornowski. With that said, we're going to move on to the invocation. This evening we have Father Hyacinth Ebe of St. Joan of Arc Roman Catholic Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Police Captain John Wickham. Will everyone please rise for the invocation if you're able? Yes. We need to hear you.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. The Lord be with you. Almighty and eternal God, your children, the members of the city council, have gathered here today to discuss and deliberate for the good of all in this city. Send down the Holy Spirit to guard and guide them in all their deliberations, that they may take wise and profitable decisions for the good of all and the glory of God. May they be infused with a spirit of wisdom in all that they say and do. May they realize that their service to the city is a service to humanity and ultimately a service to God. May they receive eternal reward for their stewardship when this life is over. We make our prayers through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
And may Almighty God bless you all. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Peace be with you.
Thank you, sir.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Father. And again, my apologies for interrupting you a couple times. We do a little different in my church. And thank you, Captain Wickham. Most appreciated. All right, at this time, we're going to do our special presentations. I'm going to hand this off to you, Madam Clerk. We're going to do the swearing in of engineers Rich Gilmartin and Tim Guerin, and then the swearing in of Fire Captain Lee Mitchell. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I have the three individuals please join me at the front, along with Kaylee Marino, Mikey and Alexandra, and Jill Guerin, who will be doing the pinning after the oath is taken.
Congratulations to our engineers and our fire captain. And it's such a wonderful sight to see everyone come out in support of them. It's much appreciated by this council and certainly our community and staff. All right. Madam Clerk, will you kindly present the agenda and any revisions thereto?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are no revisions to the agenda tonight.
Thank you. All right, moving on to conflict of interest declarations. Any council members? No. Okay, hearing seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to the introduction to public comments. Before I do that, Madam Clerk, are there requests to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so we're going to do the introduction and then we'll take in-chambers comments first. All right, everyone. Well, welcome to tonight's meeting of the Victorville City Council. Your City Council is interested in your ideas and opinions and furthermore endeavors to incorporate them into its deliberations. At the same time, the council must be able to carry out its business in an organized and efficient manner free from material disruption. Therefore, this meeting will be administered in accordance with the council's established policies and procedures and Government Code Section 54957.9. Individuals may speak on agenda items or on issues not posted on the agenda during the public comment section, providing those issues are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Individual speakers may address the council once per public comment period and once per each public hearing item for up to 3 minutes. Additional time may be allocated for appeal hearings in accordance with the city's adopted policy and procedures manual. All testimony is to be directed solely to the City Council. Although open meeting laws do not permit council members to engage in dialogue with any speaker during the public comment periods, please know your comments and questions may be taken into consideration by council members when discussing that particular agenda item. The presiding officer may briefly respond or have staff respond to statements or questions, or may request that the staff report back to the council at a subsequent meeting. Speakers are requested to comment as briefly as the subject permits. Individual council members who speak as a member of the public do so without the semblance or presumption of authority derived from her public office and are subject to the same meeting rules of conduct and decorum as other public participants. Whether attending this meeting in person or via Zoom, once comments are invited, the speaker will be called on by name, then recognized by the presiding officer. The speaker will then state the item number or numbers that will be addressed, or that the subject is a non-agendized matter. Audience members may not disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of this meeting, and those who do so are subject to removal from the meeting pursuant to Penal Code 403. Your understanding and cooperation are appreciated. Madam Clerk.
Our first speaker is Jose Chavez on a non-agendized.
Good evening, Mr. Chavez. Good to see you.
It's good to see you. Hi, everybody. How are we doing? Always first and foremost, it's always good to see you guys. Always good to have you on our side. And just wanted to bring a refresher up. I understand Old Town could be seen as a task. Yeah, it's a lot. You guys have done your part. We're continuing to do our part. And I'm coming to you as a resident, being that I live right there off 6th Street. I work down there, I live down there. I have a wife, 4 kids, 3 older boys and one daughter. She's my princess. And, I just want to give a face to Old Town. When you think of Old Town, please keep me in mind. Please keep my children in mind. The churchgoers down there, the people who work down there. When it comes to Old Town, we just want to see more involvement, just more of the city continuing to build that relationship with us as you have. And when it comes to lights, when it comes to events, when it comes to this, we just look for just continued participation in that. And I understand that Old Town, like I said, has its dark parts, and we want to bring light to that. So please, when you do think of Old Town, think of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker is Stephanie Vida Pizarran.
Good evening. So happy to see you here.
Good evening, council, and yeah, good to see you guys all again. As you know, we have been working to build up community for years down in Old Town. We put together events down there for the neighborhood, and one thing that really stood out to me just this last week was how expensive putting together events are. I'm sure you guys know because you guys just went through one last weekend. So especially when we're putting together events to spread joy, not to make a profit, it just can get really expensive. Just this last year, we had to cut our events from 4 events to 2. And this one that we're working on right now, we're having some troubles just because our engineering costs doubled from what we originally budgeted to close to $14,000 just on engineering costs. I was thinking about all that and how all of the community events down there are really put together by private groups. We do have the Veterans Memorial, or the Veterans Parade put together by the city, but it's the parade and it doesn't, spread out into a large community event. And so, we try to put our events together. Steve from the Santa Fe Trading Company puts events together. The New Investors put events together. Millionaire Mind Kids on 8th Street put STEM events together for the kids. And now we hear of other groups putting events together. All this, as I was thinking about it, costs a lot of money. And it's money that we're all trying to put together. So I guess what I don't understand and what I'm here to ask of the council is, as we're thinking about the future budget, really adding funds for Old Town specific events. I personally am a little tired of putting together events, but there's all kinds of other people that still want to work on it. And so I know that they need the financial support and backing. We do hear that there's this commitment for Old Town, working with the city staff is great. Daisy, she's amazing. So please don't get me wrong. Like, I definitely want to give her a shout out. But like I said, it can get really exhausting. Just last summer for our events, we personally had to buy lights. We hung them up ourselves and then we had to take them down ourselves because they're not official city lightings, but we needed it for the events after hours. At the last trunk or treat that we didn't put together, but another neighborhood group did, the line went around the alley and around 6th Street because there's no trunk or treat events down there. And so we appreciate the wait. We know that there's CREA groups forming and that should bring in money. But we just want to, ask for expedited processes. We know the county's been slow to respond to putting together the CREA, so maybe our council could reach out to our supervisor. Kim is part of our planning commission who works with the supervisor's office, so maybe she can help us get a meeting with them and really problem solve what these problems are. So every time we come up here, it's coming from a place of love. We really care. We do get tired and get frustrated, but we really care. We hear all kinds of good things in the city and we really just want to continue to emphasize them down in the neighborhood. We also hear sad rumors and we try to not pay too much attention to them. But we do want to continue to see our lights coming down there. We don't want to see projects dying. We want, again, our lights, our streets, our parking, our housing, and our community events. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. You did an amazing job. You got a lot in 3 minutes. And please know that this council most certainly does appreciate all the work that you and your group invest in Old Town. We appreciate it. Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker is Daniel Perez.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Perez, and welcome.
Hello, Council. My name is Daniel Perez. This is my first time ever speaking to the Council. So first and foremost, I wanted to introduce myself. Mr. John, I am Daniel. Sophie, my name is Daniel.
Sir, I'm going to this is so lovely, but when
That's uncalled for. He's not directing to them anything. That is wrong. I put a motion to allow him to address and thank everyone personally. That's uncalled for.
Yield to the direction of the chair. Member Gomez will bring herself to order. So, Mr.
I
Perez,
apologize.
And I would like to
my
say,
apologies. We all are so thankful that you're here. We have a policy where we can't address individual members of the council or staff.
Not true. Her personal.
We speak as a whole, but we do appreciate your introducing yourselves to us.
well, not individually, but as a whole, I introduce
Yes.
myself and I'm very grateful to be here. I'm grateful for the opportunity and the energy. I align with what you're doing because I know in your positions, you're here to help the city. And in any way I can, that's what I'm here to do as well. So I'm more here to just introduce myself and let you know that I am part of this team that's elevating the energy in not only Old Town, but Victorville. However that is, however you choose to use me, I am a conduit for the good of the high desert. And first and foremost, I just wanted to state that energy. Along what I'm doing here is I'm also an artist, I'm also an event thrower, I'm also a community planner. And so I feel what Vida and others have said in terms of the money being an issue. And I do feel that, but in my personal understanding of how the world works, it's never really an issue until you make it an issue. So I am looking for cooperation in terms of maybe not giving money, but creating opportunities for fundraising and knowledge and tools for people to be able to do it on themselves. I think there's a lot of people who see the bright light in Old Town specifically, speaking in Old Town specifically, and they're just waiting for any sort of motivation to pick up that spark and turn it into the fire that's going to transform the entire city. I truly feel Old Town is the heart of the high desert. And as soon as we revitalize that, we will see the shockwaves go through everybody. And I say this as someone who's lived here my whole life, who has little cousins, little sisters, and family here. I see what it is already, and I know you guys see it too. That's why you take the time to sit in these chairs to hear people out, because we all have the same vision. It's all about realizing how we can utilize each other to actually get there. And yeah, however that is, I just want to introduce myself and more of a, you guys are sitting there, I'm standing here, I understand that. But at the end of the day, the types of conversations that I have with people who are on the same mission are types that we can have at family tables, at, sitting here, understanding that there is no ego, there is no malintention with each other. And we can all come from very different places. I'm sure I don't have the same views as every single one of you, but that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get everyone incorporated and build that community and build. And so I don't want to come here with an energy of taking. I want to understand the system that has been set forth in front of me, that you have all worked so hard to maintain and to make the best that it possibly can be. I want to understand the system so I can place my energy here in the best way to help. Right now, I found that spot of light in the Root nonprofit in Old Town. And so I am here to champion that cause, because for me, it really hit my heart, it hit my soul, and I wanted to help them in whatever way I can. When I heard that they're here promoting this message, I'm with it as well, and I just want to give you my energy behind the message. And that's pretty much all I have to say, but there's 25 seconds. So, I am a rapper and I speak truth. I don't like to encourage profanity, sexual drug use, or anything like that. I do feel music is a way to reach the youth, and not only them listening to music, but them making music and them creating and finding their own voice. So I think we're all here for the same mission, and don't be afraid to contact me. I'm here to help.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perez. We appreciate you. We appreciate your positivity and your enthusiasm. Thank you, sir.
So much.
Madam Clerk.
There are no additional speakers.
All right, let's move on to our Zoom requests.
I have no Zoom requests.
All right, will you set the timer for 30 seconds in case we have anyone out in Zoom land that may wish to speak and is having technical difficulties? We certainly want to allow time to.
We did have a gentleman by the name of First raise his hand.
All right. Welcome to our meeting.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, what is progression? You guys talk about progression. You guys sit there and take money. You raise commercial taxes, electric taxes. You raise taxes on the residents in the past. What is progression? That's not progression. Is that for the people? I mean, you give yourself raises. You probably did an illegal agenda for your retirement, and sooner or later I will go there and make myself present, and you will know when I'm there, because progression is not what I'm seeing. Overpriced contracts is just a big fat cow. That fat cow has to go on a diet, because taking money and saying it's for the people, throwing parties for people that can party, that love to party, get drunk, take their own booze. Sixtown it needs to be torn down and rebuilt from new. All the crime there, people taking money. I mean, that's not progression to me. If I could give money, I wouldn't give it to you guys. That's for sure. That's involuntary servitude. You take money, you've been taking it for years, and you have over $390 million just on taxes to pay your light bill. And I'm still upset about that tax. And I'm never going to forget it until you start giving that money back to the people. The people actually own that money. And you guys are taking it involuntarily. You say you're the Constitution. Well, the first Constitution says servitude involuntary is not for the people. That's slavery. You're very unprogressive. You sit there in nice clothes. But what about the people? You drive and ignore the people with all the raggedy clothes, you know, I don't see progression. I see scandals. I see, you know, not all of you, you know, some are honest, but the ones that are making themselves known to be the dishonest ones, hopefully God shows you the way that is correct. But, you know, without you being progressive and unrepentant, hopefully God puts you where you need to go when you die, or here in the present and puts you in jail, because this is unprogressional. You know, you like muting me. You've always tried to cut me off, you know, but realistically, the people need a voice to give their money back, because the municipalities charge money, but you guys give the money to the municipalities because you don't know where to spend it anymore. You know, $390 million, that's $1 million a day. But what about the municipalities that we're paying to for the city? And we got to pay for their bridges. I mean, you know, gas pipelines. You know, something's not going on correctly.
Your time is up.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker is Galaxy A12.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Hi, thank you. First of all, just let me say, wow, somebody's fired up tonight, and for a change, it's not
Member
me.
Gomez, that's not within our jurisdiction to deal with what other speakers have said. Could you address the council, please?
So were you talking to me, Madam Mayor, or I heard you say
please-
Ms. Gomez?
please
I'm
confine
so
your
sorry.
remarks to the council. And those things that within our subject matter jurisdiction, the council has no say over what other audience members wish to speak.
Okay, Your Honor, the only reason I even raised my hand to speak was because of the words you said about checking on Zoom land to see if anyone wanted to speak. And I just wanted to let you know that I could not hear one, and it's not my phone, I could not hear one single word of the presentations tonight, not one. I don't know if there was a mic. I didn't pay attention if there was a mic being held, but I did not hear anything. I could see it, but I had absolutely no audio for listening to those swearing in ceremonies. And that's all I wanted to say, Madam Mayor and Council. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Your comments certainly noted. We'll attempt to take care of that in the future. Much appreciated. Madam Clerk, any other Zoom requests?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Now, with whatever time was left on that, 30 seconds.
Thirty seconds has lapsed and there are no additional speakers.
All right, with that said, the chair closes the public comment period, brings the item back to the council. We're now going to move on to our consent calendar, items 1 through 3. Motion is in order at this time for the council and the committee acting on
Make
its
the
various-
motion to move as recommended by staff, the calendar.
Member Gomez, the chair has not invited a motion at this time. If you'll just hold on, I'll let you know. So let me start again. A motion is in order for the council and the council acting on its various boards of directors to approve action on consent calendar items 1 through 3 in accordance with the recommendations presented on the agenda. Member Gomez,
Yes, I'd like to move that item.
move adoption as the chair just invited.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a first by Member Gomez, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Irving. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving. Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
So thank you. The council acting in its capacities on its various boards, et cetera, have adopted the recommendations set out on the consent calendar. All right, moving on to our next business in order. It's written communications, beginning with item number 4. And if you'll just bear with me a moment. This is the adoption of resolution number 22-096 regarding overtime pay for battalion chiefs. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. This item is specifically attending to one particular rank in the fire department, particularly that rank of battalion chief, which is a part of our command. They are unrepresented or non-represented positions. This item is particularly focused on the provisions in attending to overtime And this is an item that we would have otherwise included as part of the budget process. However, this item required its own separate legal analyses. Actually, we've conducted legal analysis on this subject a couple of times now as to exempt status versus non-exempt status as prescribed in FLSA. But that notwithstanding, we have been able to satisfy our legal questions in that regard, but have also identified for the sake of competitiveness, which was a large part of the intent when we adopted the compensation program in this budget for all the other positions. This is one position that we have standardly paid overtime at a straight time or on a straight time basis, also availing executive leave to those ranks. However, in having done further analysis and comparing our compensation program at these ranks to other agencies, we've come to find that notwithstanding the exempt versus non-exempt status, that other agencies at this rank are in fact paying at a time and a half and not extending executive leave to those ranks. So really for the sake of trying to be as competitive as possible at all levels and all ranks, this is one of the ranks that was left out in this particular item. With your consideration approval will actually bring us more consistent and competitive. In fact, it's expected that with the approval of this item tonight, we actually have a recruitment pending. We'll actually begin the recruitment process for the position at this rank likely tomorrow. So with that, the item is authored by your Deputy City Manager, Ms. Sophie Smith, also co-authored by your Human Resources Officer, Ms. Joseph Trevino. Ms. Smith is available for any technical questions or comments right now.
All right, thank you, Mr. Metzler. All right, let's move on to the recommendation, Madam Clerk.
That the Honorable City Council adopt resolution number 22-096, providing overtime pay for battalion chiefs.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, we're going to move into technical questions for clarification as it relates to the staff report, beginning with you, Member Becerra.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
Yes. What does overtime for the Victorville Battalion Chief consist of?
Well, overtime is something that is typically calculated based upon the number of hours worked. And that's an important distinction because hours worked does not include a calculation of hours for, say, time taken off for vacation, but still paid. And because the battalion rank works on shifts, similarly natured shifts to the floor, which is the firefighter, engineer, and captain ranks. They're working a shift of 48 hours on and 96 hours off. And so, and correct me if I'm wrong, Deputy City Manager Smith, overtime is typically calculated after a basis of, I believe, 112 hours achieved. And so after 112 hours per pay period of hours worked, then overtime would kick in.
And is there documents that have the overtime registered for review?
We do have documents that record all the measures of overtime.
And if I wanted to ask for that document, what would the wording be?
We would not provide individual personnel records publicly, but we do tabulate overtime and keep it calculated at the budget level.
So if I wanted to ask through a CPRA from the public to look and review over this, would I have the ability to do so by just stating overtime for Victorville Fire Department, for instance, or engineers? Is that how it works?
You could do that, and based upon the wording in that public records request, provided that it is public information, we would make that available.
Thank you. And what accounts does the overtime cover? I mean, in other words, is it the finance, the audit team, the departments? I'm just trying to understand if our administration is the ones that kind of do that type of analysis.
We manage everything in the accounting system. It's a computer system. that tracks all payroll. So it's maintained in a system.
Okay, and are these overtime coming from the general fund, Measure P? Where is that fund?
These would be funded through a combination of general fund and Measure P, as the fire department is funded principally from those two funding sources.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Member Gomez. Member Tim.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. It's been a long day for me, so just can you help me clarify a couple of things? I'm getting stuck here under discussion for paragraphs 4 and 5, and for under the resolution, section 6 and 7. So just for clarity, moving forward, this rank will be exempt from overtime or executive leave.
They will still retain their exempt status under FLSA, but they will transition from straight time overtime plus executive leave. That will go away, and for all overtime, that overtime will get paid at a time and a half.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And the chair has no questions and invites a motion from the council.
So moved to follow staff's recommendation.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Moving on to discussion on the pending motion. Member Becerra.
Discussion.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Member Gomez, on the pending motion.
Yes, so I presume that the fire department engineers were okay with this. I'm presuming since it's recommended by staff, so in assumption of that, there is not a question, it's supposed to be like a comment, and I heard a yes somewhere, so thank you.
Thank you, Member Gomez. The chair has no comments on the motion and closes the discussion period. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving. Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So the council's taken action in accordance with the recommendations set forth on the agenda. Moving on to item number 5. This is a side letter of agreement between the city of Victorville and the Victorville Professional Firefighters. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Side agreements or side letters are commonly used, especially when working with represented groups that have an MOU. And as we do have an MOU that was recently adopted, so as to avoid having to open up the entire document, typically for operating or working conditions related matters. It's not uncommon for labor represented groups along with the public agency to enter into a side letter, effectively to memorialize the working condition going forward. And in this particular case, as we started the budget process, we envisioned an arson investigation program, not only to be led by your deputy fire marshal, which is an individual that is on staff on a full-time basis. It is a battalion chief ranked position, but the shift work of that individual is consistent with our 980 work schedule here in the city. But that budget plan that we had also envisioned the hiring of a full-time position. I believe it was an Inspector 2 position that would also be dedicated to supplementing the arson and investigation effort. And just to put it in perspective, our arson investigation program requires that for any structural fire in the city of Victorville, that has to be investigated, which includes the determination of source and origin, all the way up to determine whether or not there's suspicious concerns regarding the fire. In this particular case, what we're doing different than what was planned at budget time, and this was really largely due to the leadership of Chief Fallon working with our deputy fire marshal, is to try to utilize as much as possible some of the existing leadership that we have on the floor that's actually responding to that fire incident. And instead of effectively having to call somebody out dedicated, perhaps in the middle of the night for a structure fire, instead rely on some of that personnel that we have attending to the fire. So this program actually transitions from relying on a dedicated full-time equivalent to where we would actually certify and qualify at the captain rank 3 investigators, basically to help do some of that initial legwork of determining source and origin as it relates to a structure fire, and as an alternative to paying that full-time rate at a much higher level position. Instead, the 3 qualified shifting investigators would actually get a supplemented stipend to their existing compensation, that stipend being $375. And so with that, this side letter of agreement memorializes that relationship to where the captain ranks, there would be 3 members within the captain ranks participating and defined as a part of our arson investigation program. And with that, that previously envisioned Inspector 2 position no longer needed at that level on the org chart, will actually reclassify that position and reclassify it to be more involved with our prevention program. So with that, the author on this item is co-authored by myself and Ms. Sophie Smith. Also, a huge help in putting this together was Chief Fallon. All 3 of us are available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That the Honorable City Council adopt resolution number 22-015, approving a side letter of agreement between the City of Victorville and the Victorville Professional Firefighters, and authorize the city manager to execute said side letter, and that the Honorable City Council approve a change to the fiscal year 22-23 table of organization.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, moving on to technical questions for clarification, beginning this time with Member Gomez.
Yes, thank you. Is this a side letter a legal term that we're utilizing?
It's a legally recognized term. It does have the effect of being a legal document.
And what does the side letter of agreement refer to? Just the 3 officers, they're not officers, but the fire for investigation for arson team for an allotted $375 per person that you explain? Is that where it comes, or there's other details that I may have missed?
The better details, the collective details, I should say, are identified on page 56 of the agenda, which is in fact the side letter document.
So let me reframe the question. When I'm trying to address the side letter of an agreement, I'm looking at the format of what a document means, not the details within. But because you gave a presentation with the details, I was wondering if this side letter of agreement is something like a contract rather than an MOU.
It is a contract. It is an agreement that is supplemental to the MOU.
Okay. And is this something that we're going to see reoccurring, or is this something that's just for the first time? We don't know if it'll pop up again.
We're not aware of any other issues that we're attending to that would require a side letter of agreements. But to the extent there are changes in working conditions that we do have to meet and confer on with labor and eventually memorialize, this is the most likely way for us to do that. Unless, of course, we're nearing the term of the MOU to where perhaps we would rather try to collectively include this as a part of the larger MOU. Being that we have just started with our MOU and our current MOU is 5 years, there's not a lot of sense for us right now for both parties to open that document up, and that's why we're approaching the memorializing of the relationship with this side letter.
And why wasn't the table of organization modified when the recent modified occurred just a couple of months back, if you don't mind repeating?
Well, this item, with presuming your approval, will in fact change the table of org, and that Inspector 2 position that was previously approved in the table of org will actually get downgraded, and I believe this is calling for it to be downgraded to an Inspector 1 position, and I'll let staff correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, there it is right there on page 51, so I am correct.
Okay, so the table of org wasn't modified at that time because this didn't come to fruition, in other words?
This particular item was not envisioned at the time that we adopted the previous table of org.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Member Gomez. Member Tim?
Yes, I just have a quick question. So this side letter, does this protect the agency? For example, if someone that was a captain may say, well, you guys are working this out of class.
It could have that effect, yes. Yeah, and in fact, that's exactly why you try to put these arrangements in place to avoid those types of arguments.
Okay, thank you.
In fact, I will add to that behind, not in this document, but separate from this document, we actually have a very clearly defined program as to what it takes to be eligible in the first place. Obviously, continuing education that goes along with it. So there is much more to it that helps describe the individuals, how they can qualify when eligibility for obviously vacancies come about, and basically the appointment for these roles.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Member Becerra.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. And the chair has none at this time and invites a motion from the council.
Move to accept staff recommendations for, was this item 5?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, we have a first and a second. Going to move on to discussion on the pending motion, beginning with Member Becerra. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
Not at the moment, thank you.
Thank you. And the chair has no discussion on the pending motion and closes the discussion period. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving, Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So the council has taken action in accordance with the recommendation laid out on the agenda. Moving on to item number 6. This is the 2022 Conflict of Interest Code. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. This item is required pursuant to the Political Reform Act and is required for us to review and evaluate our conflict of interest code every 2 years. And so it's that time again. And in doing so, we have to adopt a conflict of interest code for all of the agencies that we effectively represent. So we've gone through that effort. Your city clerk, as the author on this item, has taken the lead to review with the executive and leadership team to determine which positions within the city are subject to this code and are required to make disclosures about their economic interests. So with that, the author is your city clerk. She's available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That the city council, sitting as the code reviewing body for the city of Victorville, the Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, the Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, the Victorville Library Board of Trustees, the Victorville Water District, successor agency to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency, and the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, adopt resolution number 22-100, amending the city's conflict of interest code to update position classification titles, disclosure categories, and filing requirements for all agencies.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Questions as to the staff report, beginning this time with Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Becerra.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
Yes. Are we adopting the FPP Title II section of the code only, or does it involve any other items, not just Title II section?
I'll ask that the city clerk address that question.
So what we're adopting today deals with the changes to the position categories from the conflict of interest code. So during the budget cycle, there were changes to our table of organization where positions were added, positions were deleted. So that updates the conflict of interest code to be consistent with our table of organization and the filing requirements for those individuals.
Since this item is in line with another item that has not changed the table of org, would we have to revisit, or that's already inclusive or is not going to be included?
The positions that were just adopted.
Yes.
So that's not going to change anything that's here because those specific positions that would be affected are already inclusive in this current, that's the conflict of interest code that's presented to you tonight.
So in other words, does that include the agenda that we just passed?
I'm not sure I'm understanding you correctly, but I think they're two separate items. So the item that's in front of you deals with those people that have to disclose any conflicts of interest, and so those are just mainly positions. So if you look further into, let me find the page for you.
Okay, and let me reframe the question. So we just went through a table of org a couple of months, and this Title II with the agenda item is to cover the reorganization of the table. However, tonight, just a couple of minutes, we approved for the firefighters or the inspectors, and we're gonna remodify. So I was wondering if remodifying that, we would be seeing this type of coding later and it wouldn't affect, because it can't be included because they're not there.
This item does not relate to the table of org or the actions that we took on item 5 or even item 4 for that fact. And to the extent there were any position changes such as what we saw in item 5, it would be captured in the list of affected positions in this item 6. But this conflict of interest code does not do anything to further alter the table of organization.
Okay, so then it's my understanding, if I've been given the appropriate explanation, that Title II is being changed and it has to do with the former table of organizations. So right now, we don't even have to worry about the last one that's just pending. That's just completely not within maybe what I'm trying to ask or gain information. Maybe I'll ask that later when we see that code that comes every 2 years, I suppose. The next question is, does this item, the conflict of interest, have to do anything with the closed session David Stapleton as assigned part LLC versus SCLA?
Of course not, Member Gomez. Next question.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was asking staff. I didn't.
I just answered it for you. Moving on, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're being very rude. I don't appreciate that's hostile, and you're approaching it as in a egregious manner. I do have a problem because I'm asking staff. You have never told me that you were allowed to ask questions. If that's policy, let me know, because I'm not asking you. I'm asking council. Yes, it is. You're being very rude and hostile. That's a type of harassment. You need to stop. So I'm going to ask the question again. If you want to answer, now I understand that you can answer. Okay.
Mr. Metzler,
Thank
you're not
you.
required to answer that. The chair.
So my question was, does this item have to do with the closed session item which dealt with David Stapleton as assignee
Or time
or
is up.
versus SCLA? Thank you.
The chair rules that question out of order. All right, thank you, Member Gomez.
The corrupt
The chair
woman.
has,
Such
no
a corrupt woman.
questions. And the chair now at this time invites a motion from the council acting as the code reviewing body for the city of Victorville, Southern California Logistics Airport, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Victorville Library Board of Trustees, the Victorville Water District Successor Agency, the Victorville Redevelopment Agency, Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, that those adopt the recommendation set out on the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Discussion on the pending motion.
None.
Thank you. Member Becerra. Thank you. Member Gomez.
Absolutely. I would like to freely be able to express my questions, and if I'm out of order, if I can be pointed to policy at the next time. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, the discussion is on the pending motion. The chair has no discussion on the pending motion. Closes the discussion period. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra, Councilmember Gomez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving, Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
So thank you. So the council and the council acting on its various capacities, as was just stated a moment ago, has adopted the recommendation set out on the agenda. Moving now on to item number 7. This is the purchase and sell agreement and joint escrow instructions related to the Duncan property. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. This item is particularly dealing with the sale of real estate, approximately 1.86 acres of dirt, along with approximately 6,000 square feet of building space. This is a facility located on Duncan Road that had once previously served as the district office for the Baldy Mesa Water District. So in this particular item, as the successor to the Baldy Mesa Water District, we're taking this action as the Victorville Board of Directors for the Victorville Water District. And with that, the facility has been used over recent years, largely to satisfy some of our physical storage requirements. But as of today, And there is no actual use of this facility, and there's no envisioned need for this facility into the future. So with that, we've actually undertaken the Surplus Property Act requirements by going through the process and determining it as surplus, and it has been confirmed, in fact, as we're required to undertake that process with HCD. But also this item relates specifically to having been approached by the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office, as they've expressed a need for a new facility, more centrally located facility for that territory that's actually served by the sheriff, as commonly referred to as the Victor Valley Station. And so with that, we had been working with the county of San Bernardino on the sheriff's behalf to actually put together this transaction, which actually would yield a purchase price of approximately $615,000. That's been the agreed upon price at staff level. And we believe that's a fair price considering the appraised value being $590. So the purchase price is slightly greater than the appraised value, which we think is a good thing. There is one minor revision that I would, as a part of the motion, ask that this be approved, subject to minor non-substantive change, as the grant deed does require a signature block to be changed, so that I, as the general manager for the water district, can sign that grant deed. And then finally, if approved by this council, it's expected that this item will go before the County Board of Supervisors on November 15th. So with that, I am your author on this item, but I also relied on a significant amount of support by Mr. Tony Camargo, assistant to the city manager. He's available along with myself for any questions or comments you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Metzler. And for clarification, so if the council were to go in the direction of the staff's recommendation, you want included in that you have the authority to make minor non-substantive changes to what exactly?
The grant deed.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. All right, thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk,
A clarification for that question as well.
Member Gomez, you are recognized.
So, so is that what you talked about briefly here? Is that in writing, or is that something that we're adding?
So the request of the city manager was that would be included in the included as part of a motion if we go in that direction.
Thank you for the clarification.
You bet. Yes.
Would it be too cumbersome for us to consider items 7 and 8 collectively?
But we've already in the middle of item number 7, so we're gonna just continue the way we are. But that's a great question. Thank you for asking.
Okay.
All right. All right. With that said, Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That the Board of Directors of the Victorville Water District approve the purchase and sale agreement and joint escrow instructions between San Bernardino County and the Victorville Water District for the sale of the Duncan property. Approve resolution VWD 22-013, amending the annual budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 relating to an appropriation of additional revenue, and authorize the city manager in his capacity as general manager of the Victorville Water District or his designee to execute the PSA and related escrow documents to effectuate the sale.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to technical questions for clarification as it directly relates to the staff report. Member Becerra.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Metzler, this is the county station, the Victor Valley Station over here by the courthouse. That's going to expand, going to move, or is it ours?
No, the facility next door is operated by the county, but I believe this property would satisfy the relocation of the Victor Valley Station. And if I'm correct in where that's at, I believe that's out in Adelanto currently.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Becerra. Member Gomez.
Yes. Would you be able to expand and clarify the question that was just asked? I'm not understanding.
Sure. Member Becerra, do you want to state it again? Well,
Station that's going to move in there, the Victor Valley Station next to the courthouse, or is it going to be the county station? The answer was the county station out in Adelanto.
yes.
I understood the answer.
Okay, so what is being said is we're gonna have an Adelanto station nearby by the courthouse. Is that what's being said?
No, this is intended to serve an ultimate relocation of the existing Victor Valley Station, which is currently located in the city of Adelanto, to this location that is at Duncan Road in Victorville.
Okay, so that station is the police station or is just a generic station? We said Victorville Station, but I don't know what that refers to.
Victor Valley Station.
Is that like a transportation or what is that?
It's the county sheriff department that serves the county unincorporated areas, which is the non-incorporated areas of Adelanto. It's going to be Baldy Mesa. It's going to be Phelan, Pinion Hills, the non-incorporated areas.
Okay, so that's a little clear for me. So police station over in Adelanto will be taking over that space. Is that correct? Is that what we're saying?
Excuse me. The Victor Valley Station will be relocated from Adelanto to Victorville.
Okay, and my next question is, so I think we had plans with this, something about parks. Is that the case, but we no longer need it for extension of a park?
I believe that's the next item.
Okay, so that's not this item. So then my next question is this the land that we consider to be surplus or is that also the next item?
This item, along with all real estate dispositions, have to go through and satisfy the Surplus Property Act. So this is satisfied that requirement.
Okay, so then this land is surplus and the city of Victorville as the owner no longer needs it, therefore it's selling it to the county of San Bernardino to relocate a police station in that area. Is that what's going on?
That's correct.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Member Gomez, Mayor Pro Tem.
I don't have any questions.
Thank you. So Mr. Metzler, just framing this in terms of a question, tell me if I have this in a nutshell. So this property already being declared surplus property back in March of this year is now being sold, and it's going to be purchased by the county for purposes of the Victor Valley Station, now located in Adelanto, to take up route in Victorville.
That is correct.
Thank you. All right, with that said, the chair invites a motion from the Victorville Water District Board of Directors.
So moved to follow staff's recommendation of items 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you, Member Becerra. Is there a second? Thank you. We have a first and a second. Discussion on the pending motion. Member Becerra.
Discussion.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Discussion.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
Not at the moment.
Thank you, and the chair has none. Discussion period is closed. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Madam Mayor, may you please clarify the motion?
Yes, my apologies. You know what, since we've already got a motion and a first and a second, all that, we're going to go ahead and make a second motion for the minor revisions. All right, with that said, can you take the vote, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Becerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving,
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion.
Right now, yes, motion passes. The Water Board has taken action in accordance with the recommendation laid out on the agenda. As to the minor other part of this, which is to deal with the minor non-substantive changes to the grant deed that can be executed by Mr. Metzler. Is there a motion to that?
So moved.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Any discussion on that pending motion?
No discussion.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, vote please.
Councilmember Becerra, Councilmember Gomez.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving,
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Thank you.
Motion passes with Councilmember Gomez voting no.
Thank you. So we have taken action in accordance with the recommendation, additional recommendation made by Mr. Metzler. All right, moving on to item number 8. This is the purchase and sell agreement and joint escrow instructions, Parks Division Properties. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. This item is speaking to approximately 40 acres of undeveloped property, actually outside the jurisdictional limits of the city, but inside our sphere of influence and located south of our southwesternmost boundary. It's property that, as far back as we have researched, appears to have been acquired with the intent to build a park facility. And at this point in time, there's no vision for that property being used to satisfy that intended purpose. In fact, our parks, excuse me, plans don't contemplate these properties. So we'd actually, I'm sorry, they don't contemplate these properties for the use of a park facility. And so with that, we have gone through similarly the surplus property act requirements to declare this property as surplus. We'd actually facilitated that process in response to a desire by the MWA, which is the Mojave Water Agency, as they're interested and have been interested for some time in having a percolation facility or percolation ponds, which this property is suited well for, given its proximity to the existing aqueduct running southerly across the southern boundary of the property. We do believe from a larger water quality standpoint that having multiple recharge facilities at various locations throughout the Alto subbasin would actually be a good thing for water quality altogether. So with that, we've been interested in working with them to satisfy this ultimate sale. The purchase price on this property is approximately $575,000 and does exceed the appraised value of $440,000. So again, we believe from a dollars and cents perspective that that's a good thing. And with that, presuming the sale of this property, the money that would be generated from this sale would actually go to replenish our recreation diff fund. So with that, I am the author, but I also did rely on Mr. Tony Camargo, the assistant to the city manager, to help bring this item forward. We're both available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, the recommendation.
That the Honorable City Council approve the purchase and sale agreement and joint escrow instructions between the Mojave Water Agency and the City of Victorville for the sale of assessors parcel numbers 3070-40111, 3070-40101, and 3070-40102. Adopt resolution number 22-110, amending the annual budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 relating to an appropriation of additional revenue, and authorize the city manager or his designee to execute the PSA and related escrow documents to effectuate the sale.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, technical questions for clarification as it relates to the staff report. We're going to begin this time with Member Gomez.
Yes. When did negotiations for the land ensue originally for the purpose discussed in this item for Mojave Water Agency?
I'm sorry, I know we've talked with the MWA on and off for several years, but I believe the furtherance of negotiations really was around the time of having satisfied the surplus Property Act requirements.
Okay, so then my next question is, since you can answer in the same fashion, is there legal force forcing the city to sell land as surplus?
Yeah, that if there is state law, that is a surplus land act itself, and that's what requires us to conform.
So just a couple of moments ago, you also alluded to no need to build park facilities. When you said park facilities, do you mean like a dealership park, or are you talking about a recreational park?
A recreational.
Oh, okay, so we couldn't keep the property if we had plans for that because we're being forced to sell it as surplus land?
We're not being forced to sell it as surplus land. I mean, since there's been an identified desire to sell the property, we have to conform to the Surplus Property Act. We could ultimately choose not to sell the property, and if we chose not to sell the property, we can continue to own it for however long. Could be later determined by staff and the council. But as we view things, especially considering having recently completing Parks Master Plan, the property that we're holding does not fit within that Parks Master Plan. So the issue for us as staff is do we necessarily believe it's in our best interest to continue to hold property that we don't necessarily have plans for to develop, especially when from a larger citywide perspective, when you put your water management hats on and there's an interest from another public agency, as there is here in this particular case, to build a project on the same property that can actually enhance water quality. It's within our interest to sell the property and try to facilitate other forms of development that have positive public benefit.
Okay, and then help me understand, I don't really comprehend how we can be within an appraisal of less than $250,000 for 42.33 acres. In my head, I just look at, people purchasing a home, $250,000, but it's not even an acre. So how is the appraisal? I feel like we're just giving land away and it's not appropriate.
Well, I certainly don't see it as giving land away because, we did conduct an appraisal. The appraisal did come out at $440,000. The buyer is actually offering more than the appraised value. And with that, it's probably helpful to know, and it's certainly something an appraiser considered in its evaluation of property is, what is comparable property going for from a sales perspective, but it's also going to look at other things such as site characteristics, what public improvements exist, is there any utilities at the property, and this property particularly is undeveloped, has many site constraints from the perspective of not having public improvements. So it's likely for those reasons you see a large number of acreage, but perhaps perception that the price is not commensurate with the large number of acres, and that's because the property, just being straightforward or clear, is that the property is very valuable.
Okay. Then finally, is surplus land limited to other agencies to purchase, or is it open also to the public? And did we have that available for the public?
It is available for the public.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank-
Oh, yeah, I do actually. I noticed that we don't have a review of the appraisal. How is that? How can we review an analysis of an appraisal? It's not within the documents. Is that available?
It's a document. If this council so desires, it's a very voluminous document. But if this council desires, we can certainly provide it.
Yeah, but it's also open for the general public, even if the council decides not to, right?
I don't know the answer to that at this time because we're not done with the transaction. But if there was a public records request that came in, we would evaluate the request with council and disclose as determined appropriate.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, thank you, Member Gomez. Mayor Pro Tem.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Member Becerra.
Thank you, Mr. Metzler. You were saying that we're selling to MWA Water. You said for percolation ponds?
Correct.
Percolation pond gets the water, percolates it back down into our aquifer. So our citizens in our city and our desert have water continuously. Instead of just sitting there as empty property, correct? Because a percolation pond has to be made a certain way so it percolates back down into the aquifer.
That's correct.
So it's better that we do sell it to MWA. So it helps our aquifer, which helps our citizens because of the water available to them.
I would say that selling this property to the MWA is a good public project.
Thank you very much. No further questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, of course, thank you. All right, and Mr. Metzler, is percolation pond the same thing as saying a recharge basin?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, because it just for clarification for the public, because the agenda item says recharge. All right, so with that, the chair invites a motion from the council.
Motion to approve staff's recommendation, items 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a first and a second. Discussion on the pending motion, Member Becerra.
Discussion.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
No discussion.
Thank you. The chair has none and closes the discussion period. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra. Aye. Councilmember Gomez.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes with Councilmember Gomez voting no.
All right, thank you. So the council has taken action in accordance with the recommendations set forth on the agenda. Moving on to item number 9, this is the Wellness Center Project, Phase 1 Supplemental Work Order. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. This item is brought forward to help us stay on track with the construction activity out at the Wellness Center. And it's basically it's a supplemental work order to authorize the actual construction or installation of a variety of different electrical works that are needed to basically energize the site. So with that, the author on this item is your city engineer, Mr. Brian Gangler. He is available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, the recommendation.
That the Honorable City Council approves supplemental work order number 7, resulting in an increase not to exceed $302,968.86 for the Wellness Center Phase 1 construction contract.
Thank you. All right, technical questions for clarification as it relates to the staff report. We're going to begin this time with you, Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I have a lot of questions regarding this item, but I'm gonna keep it focused on the item itself.
Thank you.
So I have a question. Is it safe to assume that we have not commenced Phase 2? I don't know why I thought we had.
We have, and in fact, Mr. Gangler is probably best to describe where we're at in Phase 2.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, members of the city council. We have started Phase 2, although only a small percentage of the work has been completed yet. There is some overlap between Phase 1 and Phase 2.
So we're still working on Phase 1 at this time.
Yes.
Okay. So I noticed that this is change order number 7. Number 7. So we have 1 through 4 listed, and we've skipped 5 and 6. We're going to approve them at a later date. I don't know much. I'm out of my league here, but I do have a question. I don't know why, but I was thinking in terms of scopes of work. If we're at 7 already, are we not putting the cart before the horse with 5 and 6?
Yes, and I apologize for the confusion.
Uh-huh.
The reason for that is because since this project was procured through Sourcewell,
Yes.
and they work through Gordian, they had already processed these work orders and given them a number,
Oh,
and 7 was completed before 5 and 6, which causes confusion. 5 and 6 will have to be presented later to city council, but they haven't been completely reviewed yet. And so I wasn't ready to bring them forward at this time.
so we can do change order 7 in the work for change order 7 before we consider 5 and 6.
Yes.
Okay, that was kind of confusing for me. The last question, well, I'll leave that for it. That's not really, that's going in for the, that's okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And you know what, you asked my question, so thank you. All right, Member Becerra.
Thank you. Mr. Gangler, is the project in the right location where we're gonna be our new end date of May? So,
Currently, that is our projected completion is in May.
and we're not behind yet. Well, the contractor isn't behind yet because we haven't had bad weather.
Well, not yet. We'll have to continue to revise the schedule as the project progresses.
Okay, because of the water line where it was at, the water table that they found higher than what it should have, where.
There potentially could be a number of reasons where there might be a delay. We continue to have material delay issues, but
Out of our control.
right now, that is the schedule, is the completion in May.
Okay, thank you very much. Sir. No further questions, thank you, Madam.
Yes, thank you, Member Becerra. Member Gomez.
Yes, so reading through the report, it shows 7 steps. And the first one shows as a resolution approval for funding. The second one shows as an agreement briefly. The third one is as an intercept. The fourth one talks about Connect Homes. Ms. Irving touched upon 5 and 6, which I didn't realize were missing because I was gonna say, fill in the blanks for me because I don't see the blanks. So if you would mind reiterating what you have stated? Because I'm asking in a different fashion.
Yes, so you don't see work orders 5 and 6 because the review has not been completed yet. It's still being reviewed by our construction management company, Pacifica Services. And when that review is completed, then at that time I will bring it forward to city council and recommend approval. But that's why this is out of sequence. Number 7 is coming ahead of number 5 and 6.
Okay, is there any potential? The word is not error or mistake, but can we foresee having skipped two parts of the process as something that can hinder another step? Or is that just, that's not how it works? You can do the first step and then the 7th and then come back to the second one because construction can be managed that way. I don't know. I'm not a construction worker.
And this is just simply the number that was assigned, but it's not delaying any of the construction. The fact that number 5 and 6 haven't been approved yet is not delaying the construction schedule.
And what are number 5 and 6 entailing?
Number 5 has to do with primarily changes in the underground utilities, including water, sewer, drainage. Number 6 is actually credits applied or adjustments to the phase 1 project.
Okay, so would you mind saying that differently? Because I felt like I am, just say it a different way, maybe, even if you mind repeating.
So to summarize, number 5, which you haven't seen yet, basically deals with changes to the underground utilities. And number 6 will be adjustments, which will actually be a negative value. It'll lower some of the previous approvals that have already been made because there are adjustments or credits coming back.
When you talk about
I know this is a very different type of process. This is not how we normally procure a contract, but this is the particular system that we have to work with on the wellness center.
When you address credits, what is that? What is credits?
It's basically a reduction in the contract price.
Oh,
It lowers it.
all right, thank you. And there was something about electrical work needed, lights. What does electrical mean?
Well, this particular work order number 7 relates to the electrical underground work,
Okay.
in particular for the SCE service to the site.
Okay, and are we anticipating, because we use the word yet, so maybe we're foreseeing some kind of delay or something? Or why are we talking like there's an inferred assumption that we could? Is that just part of the language embedded?
It is possible that the project could experience delays. That is an uncertainty at this time.
Okay, and what types of material delays and for what reasons? You did talk about those types of delays.
There have been material delays with virtually every kind of material so far. So we have been trying to manage that, find sources that that basically have a faster delivery. So basically every kind of material so far is experiencing potentially a delay.
Concrete, is that one of the materials that's been delayed?
Yes,
Is it because of shortage or is it just because it's a sole source?
I don't know the reasons.
All right, thank you. No further questions. I appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you, Member Gomez. And the chair has no questions and invites a motion from the council.
Motion to approve staff recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. We have a first and a second. Moving on to discussion on the pending motion, Member Becerra.
No discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
It's just too much uncertainty for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And the chair simply wishes to thank our staff for the incredible amount of work that has been accomplished thus far, that we could even see a project of this magnitude come to completion in a year and a half is mind-boggling. And especially with all of the challenges that we have in the supply chain and labor issues and so forth, and all the detail that is required for this project, I think that our staff has gone above and beyond and is to be commended. And Mayor Pro Tem Irving just said that she agreed. I heard her, so let me say that. All right. With that said, the chair discussions, the chair closes discussion on the pending motion. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra. Councilmember Gomez.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes with Councilmember Gomez voting no.
All right, with that said, the council has adopted staff's recommendation as set forth on that agenda item. Moving on to our last agenda item that requires, item number 10, consideration of proposed city council resolution number 22-111, adopting revisions to the city of Victorville City Council Policy and Procedures Manual. Mr. Metzler or Mr. DeBortnowski? Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Yes, this item was brought together as a result of a request by the council at a previous meeting to review certain sections of the policy manual and make some changes to the policy manual, more so speaking to requirements to prove residency and, of course, addressing any penalties or punitive measures associated with non-compliance. Staff and the city attorney's office had worked together in bringing this forward to try to simplify the review by you as the council. We've attached a red line version of the document so you can clearly see the difference from the original currently adopted document to where the red lines show the proposed changes. So with that, the author on this item is, in fact, your city attorney, Mr. Andre DeBortnowski. He's available along with myself for any questions or comments you might have.
All right, Madam Clerk, the recommendation.
That the Honorable City Council review and consider the proposed revised City Council Policy and Procedure Manual and adopt resolution number 22-111.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. And as this item, as I recall, was requested by Member Becerra, I guess we'll start with you. Do you have any questions for clarification, or did you wish to further introduce this item in any way?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I do. Madam Mayor, what this policy change in the manual is doing, it's good, fine and dandy, but what I was looking for, and that is my fault, I'm looking to place an ordinance. So I'm going to move to make an ordinance, not I'll wait till everyone's done talking.
All right.
So the changes have punitive actions. Right now, you break a policy in our policy manual, nothing happens. So you can talk, you can be disrespectful, you can do things and nothing can happen. Well, after we're done with the questions on this, along with this, I'm going to ask for an ordinance be placed in our Muni code for actions to be held accountable for breaking these policies.
Gotcha. All right. So do you have any other questions as it relates to this one directly?
No, ma'am.
All right. Gotcha. All right. Thank you. Member Gomez.
Absolutely. And Becerra's right. In closed session, she called me bitch.
Member Gomez is out of order.
So she's right.
What's
There
happening
is
in closed session
absolutely nothing
is not
keeps her
for
accountable.
discussion.
So we need to keep
Member
her accountable
Gomez.
too. So I'm glad she
Indeed,
brought
Member
that up.
Gomez, you're out of order.
Appreciate it.
And move on.
So
Thank
my
you.
next question that comes for clarifying what she said, we need to keep people accountable because there is absolutely no accountability. So I have a couple of questions. Is this policy in conflict with state law?
Actually is completely consistent with state law.
Thank you. Are city resolutions subject to state law?
Yes.
Has the state already reserved the right to make those laws in these resolutions?
This is not in any way in conflict with state law.
That was not my question. So let me try to reframe it. So it's my understanding that because we are a charter city, supersedes the state law supersedes the charter. So a resolution would be something that either it's under the charter or the state has already planned by the Rob Bonta Attorney General. So it's just, if state law says otherwise with a quo warranto, a resolution wouldn't hold. And so that's where I'm trying to get to, but you can clarify.
We are a charter city, but in our charter, we follow state law with respect to issues such as this.
Thank you. And how much input was taken by the public, by the city council? Was that in writing?
As with all items before this council, the public's given an opportunity to participate in these items.
Okay, and it was stated that an ordinance would probably be something. Is there a difference between what we have here, whether it's a policy, I see a resolution, an ordinance, and it's my understanding that for any municipal code, it would have to go out for the people, for them to vote for any kind of municipal changes for the code.
That's not correct. Basically, this council can make revisions to the municipal code. The municipal code then becomes, as basically done by ordinance, becomes law. This is a policy manual. However, I will point out that this policy manual does refer to California government code sections that basically are the law that govern what happens in the event that somebody does not comply.
Okay, so that means that if there's anything within the elected officials that needs to be rendered, it's my understanding, and I did send a cease and desist letter to the city, and it talks about quo warranto. So it's my understanding based on this policy that there's at least 3 members of this council that could potentially vote another elected official out of office.
Your time is up.
according to a quo warranto.
Thank you, Mr. DeBornowski. Will you answer that, please?
Basically, that quo warranto is just one of the procedures that would be available in order to determine whether or not a individual was residing appropriately within the community.
Thank you.
Code section 36052A is a statute that basically governs these issues.
All right, thank you, Mr. DeBornowski. Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I have a couple of questions. I guess in light of what my colleague, Councilwoman Becerra has suggested, are we even going to take action on this?
Why,
You sound like you wanted to change.
Well, yeah, it's a good question. So, Mr. DeBornowski,
I'm not sure, I understand Councilmember Becerra's request, but given that the state law governs this area, I'm not sure you need to put it into your municipal code. You have a government code section that indicates. So it could just certainly stay in the policy manual because it refers directly to that government code section.
okay, so can I just ask, because I think we're all going to ask it. So, and Member Becerra, please correct me if I have misunderstood. But I think that the intent was to see if we could put it in an ordinance to give some teeth to the policy so that there's some action that can be taken, criminal action, I guess.
You could certainly put something into the municipal code. I'm not sure it's necessary at this point, given that you have a government code section that basically says if a person doesn't reside in the city, their seat becomes vacant. And then there are procedures in the law on how to process that. What we have done here is made a more definitive, more robust set of criteria as to allow the council members to establish whether or not they do in fact reside in the city or in the district in that matter.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Just, this is on principle. As a city or the municipality of the city of Victorville, should we be taking on law enforcement?
Well, I'm not sure this really be law enforcement. Basically, the law states that if you don't live in the city, the seat is vacated.
No, I understand that,
And
but
typically at that point, if it became a dispute, it would be probably the district attorney. that would
right, we wouldn't enforce that. And
The
if,
city council could vote the person out of office basically, but if there was a challenge to it, it could then either go to the district attorney or the attorney general.
right, but I guess what I'm saying is if we're creating an ordinance, we usually would be in the business of enforcing it.
We do enforce ordinances.
Right,
yes.
but would we not enforce a law that's already on the books?
We-
You understand what I'm asking?
Right. We typically have the ability to enforce our ordinances. As city attorney, we basically are the city prosecutor as well. We can enforce that. Here, I think it would almost be somewhat redundant and
Right,
have a state law. I think the policy manual is fine because it sets criteria up as to what you need to comply with. You already have state laws in there that indicate if you don't live here, you basically lose that seat. Procedurally, how that's done, you either go to the district attorney, the city council could vote to basically tell that person they're off the council, which you have done.
right,
That person then could potentially challenge that. That then goes through a court proceeding.
okay.
And
like-
come to the seat and then try to get arrested and make it a big deal. about it.
Order has
I
not been
I'm not on
recognized.
a, you're out of order.
My apologies.
That's
Mayor
what
Pro
I'm
Tem.
concerned, because that would allow a person due process.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
May I continue with?
Yeah,
my
of course.
questions? Okay, so, initially I had questions about, issues like temporary displacement. Some people may be married, and when you're married, sometimes you're information or some of these things come under your spouse's name, or perhaps you're engaging in some, I don't want to call it that, I mean, a setting of cohabitation type setting.
Correct.
And all of that was addressed. And then finally, I guess when you have these outliers or uh, situations that are different, you can address it with an affidavit, correct?
Correct.
So all of that being said, can you please explain the last sentence of just above B? Because all that we're saying, it says here, alternatively, for non-compliance with this section, which section are we referring to? The council could consider taking action to remove the council person from committee assignments and access to public facilities outside of the normal working hours. We're also can consider removing the person from office.
Correct.
Or
You would basically, per the government code section, remove them from office. You could also remove them from other.
why is that not part of the language right here? I'm just asking.
Which part?
Last sentence at the end. Just above B.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I'm looking at the red line.
Right.
This
No,
one.
I have the red line.
Okay.
You ask the question again.
You said if you don't comply with this section, you,
Right. The aforementioned section, yes.
okay, just above it.
Your
Right.
time is up.
Right.
Oh, okay, I was.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you,
the
ma'am.
section.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and Member Becerra has additional time, I believe, Madam Clerk.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Member.
Councilmember Irving, what I'm trying to get at too is what happens if the new, because we're at large, so we still have to, we could just live in the city. The two new council
Yes.
that they have to prove they live in the districts they ran in, and they have to continue living in those districts. But my thing is, how do we prove that you live in the district if you're not turning in the paperwork?
I'm not having a problem.
Oh, no, no, no.
That's saying,
Okay, so that's,
That's
yeah,
what I was getting at.
I understand.
okay, hold on. Let's not have too much of a to and fro. Because the comment was, it was a question, but let's make sure that we're, hold on. I know. Let's make sure that we're asking the questions or commenting to the full of the council.
And that's what I'm doing.
Yes.
I'm going towards Councilmember Irving's question.
Yes.
So that's why I would like to put in an ordinance, so we have some teeth. So in other words, so we can even put in the ordinance, because the city of Cypress and the city of Folsom both, if you don't follow the laws, then you're censure. You lose your stipend and your house benefits. You don't have to go to jail, but you lose those two things if you're not playing by the rules that govern the city council as a whole.
I'm not,
That's why I was looking at an ordinance.
but I
for
was,
that reason.
oh, okay, I understand.
I'm explaining myself.
No, but the affidavit is pretty powerful because you sign under, under the,
Thank you.
I mean, you know what I mean? I'm sorry, I can't read the language here, but, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I think we got through that part of it. Now I have some questions. So I just want to make sure that I understand it clearly, because we have government code that says when a council member does not reside in a certain area, the seat is vacated. That is dictated by the government code. When a council takes action, it's just to confirm that, is it not?
That is correct. And then you have to afford that person some level of due process.
Yes, perfect. All right. Then okay, then I have one other question. So again, going to that very last paragraph that Mayor Pro Tem referred to, if it's possible and if the council is so inclined, I would like to add some kind of language to that says that that non-compliance automatically causes that the offending member to not be considered for any attendance at any conferences.
You could certainly add that as part of your motion, and we can then just make the modification, assuming the council isn't approving this policy manual revision.
Okay. All right, with that said, the chair has no further questions, and Member Becerra, since this is your motion, I'm going to ask you to, if you'd like to make it, keeping in mind that you have a desire in root of the ordinance. Maybe we can take that up in the agenda item requests at the end of the meeting. Are you good with that? All right. All right, Member Becerra.
Motion to approve staff recommendation on items 1 and 2.
Okay. And would you like to consider the conference attendance being automatically not considered?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. We have a first. Is there a second?
Excuse me, before a second, isn't it already a part of the language? Isn't the red?
No, I was, Member Becerra has included my suggestion, which is to, if there's non-compliance with a section, the offending council member is automatically not considered for attendance at conferences.
Okay, but before we go any further, if you're gonna make an ordinance, isn't this?
This is not an ordinance, just as to.
No, I know,
this.
but I
Okay.
said if we're going to adopt an ordinance, isn't this just overkill? The ordinance in and of itself is going to take care of all of this non-compliance with the way the policy stands as it is, as it was adopted back in what, January of 2022?
I think the policy manual accomplishes what was requested, which is to make the provisions more robust and provide some criteria as to council members' ability to establish their residency. As I mentioned previously, the California Government Code dictates what happens if you are not a resident. So certainly you could put that into the municipal code. I don't think it's necessary.
The ordinance.
Keith, you want to?
And if I might, just trying to make sense of, and interpret perhaps what Councilmember Becerra's.
Mr. Messer, can I pause you for just a second? I'm so sorry for the interruption. So this item is a little bit wieldy, so we're doing things a little bit differently, but I think it's necessary in this case. So, Mr. Metzler.
I can speak now.
Yes, of course.
Sorry, lost my train of thought.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Metzler.
Now you know how it feels.
So in trying to interpret perhaps the significance in attending to the ordinance, Councilmember Becerra, at least I interpreted from what she was trying to say, was speaking to 2 items that likely could not be altered or done in just the policy manual itself. And so when she had spoke to matters of compensation, whether it's stipend or benefits, those are actually prescribed under the municipal code. So I don't exactly believe that if that's what this council wanted to do, or if that's what she is proposing, that the policy manual would be sufficient enough to overturn actually what's already prescribed in the municipal code. So as to the overkill comment, it might be presumptuous to believe that's the case, because again, I think the city attorney is correct. This is actually accomplishing what the council had asked to be accomplished. Sounds like what Councilmember Becerra is speaking to is something slightly different, but also out of the purview of the policy manual. And if there was other punitive measures that would effectively impact what's already prescribed in code, you likely have to alter or make changes to the actual code to effectuate that, if that makes sense.
So the 2 go hand in hand.
The 2 could go hand in hand, but if, for example, based upon the suggestion that I think Councilmember Becerra is speaking to as to what other cities have done, such as become more punitive by taking away the stipend. Let's just speak of the stipend, for example. In our city structure here, the stipend is actually provided to the council pursuant to your municipal code, not your policy manual. So if this council had a desire to be more punitive by taking that away for non-compliance, non-compliance with, say, the policy manual, you likely would have to alter your municipal code to effectuate that change.
I'm clear on that. I'm just asking, can't we just allow the policy manual to stand as it is?
I think you certainly could. However, I think putting the types of criteria that we are suggesting here seems like would be a little bit of overkill for the municipal code, especially given it's way more complicated and way more cumbersome to make amendments to the municipal code than it is to do a policy manual.
Okay.
Thank you for that. So, Mr. Metzler, I really appreciate your comments, because it actually brought it brought things into more focus that I hadn't thought about it in that way. So, all right. With that said, we have a motion pending, and do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second discussion on the pending motion. Member Becerra.
No discussion.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
No.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so proud that these members have stayed so you can see the political realm of what's taking place. When you begin to examine as a newbie or as a new person, what the need is for a municipal code change, or we're talking about a
Member
policy,
Gomez, my apologies for interrupting.
Be
Please speak to the
that
council.
this is not appropriate. This is why we need you to run for office. Do you understand?
Member
You're
Gomez will speak to the council and not the
and
audience.
I don't listen to the blonde
Member
bitch.
Gomez, if you
Listen
will
to the
not,
public.
if you will
So
not.
thank you very much. Take care.
All right, we're going to move on. All right, moving on. All right, so the mayor has no comments on this, but I will before we move on to the next item. And so the discussion on the pending motion is closed. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra, Councilmember Gomez.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving, Mayor Jones.
Yes,
Motion passes with Councilmember Gomez voting no.
thank you. And before we move on to item number 11, it is appropriate at this time for the chair to offer a friendly reminder to all members of the council that it is a violation of our policy to impugn the motives or their character or attack in any way fellow council members. It is outside.
You do it all the
Before-
time in closed session when I don't have the camera on.
That is absolutely false.
It's your fault.
That is patently
The
false.
camera's on, you act so respectable, but out in closed session, there's no camera and you start rebuking, me, don't
Gomez is
you?
out of order and
Yes, I'm
will
sure I am,
suspend.
just like you are.
Madam Clerk, please mute the mic. All right, we're now at item number 11, city manager reports. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Yes, we do have an exciting event, an open house event that's going to be hosted by your fire department at Station 315 on October 12th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. There at that event, you'll be able to get tips on how to keep your family safe from fires. You also have an opportunity to meet members of our fire department, enjoy food and giveaways, and view, of course, the apparatus, and take a tour of that station if you haven't done so already. So with that, actually, that's an invitation to you and to the public. Again, October 12th, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's Station 315, which is located on Eucalyptus Street over at Sunset Ridge Park. Also, if you like Baker's Burgers and you want some free food, our library is hosting a Baker's Burger Book Club event from October 3rd to November 19th. That'll be at the city library. It's available to those that are ages 4 through 17. And you'll be able to register, read, and log your minutes of time read to be eligible for that Baker's giveaway. Also, the Bear Valley Road over the BNSF on the Bear Valley Road Bridge at BNSF Railway. While some of the lanes were closed, the girders were successfully set in place on Thursday night, this last September 29th. Work's going to continue in October on the bridge behind the K-rail. It's anticipated that more lane closures will be needed this month. And then finally, we've made some good progress on Iron Mountain, which is another large warehouse building out at SCLA. Next to the Dr. Pepper site work has been finalized and signed off. So with that, that's all I have at this time, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Metzler. All right, item number 12. This is discussion and possible action regarding upcoming agenda items. Member Gomez.
Yes, we've had several members.
May I unmute her?
Yes, please unmute.
Thank you, City Clerk, for asking permission, because that allows me to understand that you're just my equal, just like everybody else, and I appreciate you giving her that
Member Gomez.
talk. And I will move on. Did you want to add anything else before I continue? I suppose you don't. Thank you. So I do have a couple of things that I wanted to add as a possible action. We had several speakers, and the voice of the speakers are not just voters. There's members who live in that old town of Victorville, the old town, old route, new town, downtown. And I think it would merit to give these individuals a voice. So I want to add to the agenda a review of what has already taken place in Old Town And if we have any CIP projects coming into the fore for the next 365 days, that would be something that we could review and take action, and that's my motion.
All right, thank you. Is there a timeline as to when you would want
Yes,
that to come forward?
thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, so within the next 30 days, if that can show itself, I know we're getting close to the holidays. So within the next 30 days, so we're on November 4th. So have something by November 4th, which would be the next council meeting, anything within 30 days.
Thank you. Member Gomez,
Madam Mayor,
is there a second?
some clarification.
Yes, minor clarification.
Mr. Metzler, isn't everything that she asked for public record? CIP, anything coming up, isn't all that public record already?
I believe so.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We have a motion by Member Gomez. Is there a second? Hearing no second, the motion dies. Member Gomez?
Yes, thank you. So what that means is nobody wants to hear it. Anyways, this is typical. That's why I want to be the voice of the people.
Member
And the Second
Gomez,
Amendment,
you are
I'm
to
sorry,
request-
you are freely to always speak. So I was done.
Member Gomez, it's the chair's responsibility to facilitate the meeting.
It's
so
also your
please move on if you
responsibility to
have
be the
other
voice of the people. If they want to
All
be.
right, moving on. All right, we're going to now move on to Mayor Pro Tem. Do you have?
I don't have anything. Of
Thank
course
you.
she doesn't.
Member Becerra?
And of course she doesn't either.
Mayor, I'd like to see if we could place an ordinance in our municipal code for council members that aren't following, if we could look into different cities. There's one that I know I read in City of Cypress and also Folsom. Actions that we could take for non-compliance of our council policy, i.e. loss of stipend, benefits, travel. So that is my motion for staff.
Okay, and when would you propose to have this brought back?
At least give them at least 60 days, because by then it'll be past the second. So 60 days, yeah, it'll take us into December. We only have one council meeting that day, So at least, well, give them until January
All right, thank you.
of 2023.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I need some clarification.
Sure.
This is for non-compliance of what particular area?
The city council policy in the sense of when we're supposed to go where we live and we don't.
You just
give-
mean as it relates to residency?
Residency, and then breaking the rules of our meetings, like, everybody cussing at each other.
I guess
and
what
calling each other names in the sense, in public,
Oh, just behind closed doors, we could do it, huh?
Member
Got it.
Gomez. has
No, I
been
want to be
recognized.
supportive, but I guess.
Leslie, you're gonna second it. Just stop the bullshit.
Member Gomez has not been recognized and will
He's
please
seconding all the
suspend.
shit. Come on, it's only obvious.
Member
She's blaming me.
Gomez, please conduct yourself in a professional manner.
Yeah, I'm
Mayor Pro
copying
Tem.
you. You're my model.
what it could be, remember, Irving, is have staff look into it. Staff has to come back with recommendations of what other cities have and what we could do.
I think it's without the scope. We
Member
can't be having
Gomez,
full
the
conversation.
chair has
It
happened
has
to
to
be
be
in wants to recognize
You
you've not
can't
been
do that.
recognized.
It has to be
Member
agendized
Gomez will bring
before we have a
herself to
full
order.
conversation.
Member Gomez
She's
is in
already
no
supporting
position
it. There's no need to
facilitate this
convince.
meeting. Madam Clerk, please mute Member Gomez's mic.
What is the problem with me getting a clarification?
Mayor Pro Tem, please don't have a side conversation. There is no, Mayor Pro Tem, there is no problem with your getting clarification. Please don't have
The
a side
report that they're
conversation.
bringing back possible.
Mayor Pro Tem, all right, enough.
I'd like it as an ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a second? Chair seconds. All right, Madam Clerk, vote please.
Councilmember Becerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez.
Please unmute.
I have a problem with me not being able to get clarification. I'm sorry.
Well, Mayor Pro Tem, I gave you the opportunity, but
No,
you chose to have a conversation with
So sorry you feel that way, but go ahead with the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem. My apologies, but at some point the chair has to intervene when there's just nothing but a cat
So
fight.
your
going on.
colleague,
You are, and I gave
I
you.
don't appreciate that. I've said that to you once before.
right. Mayor Pro Tem Irving, if you have difficulty with the chair, please have a discussion with me outside of chamber so as to not unduly burden our community.
I'm going to do
With that said, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Gomez.
Yes, I said no.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
no.
Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion fails, tie vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Also, I would like to see if staff can look into, and I don't know if this has to be an ordinance, a reimbursement fee. So all of the people that decide that it's okay to get a DUI in our city, cause major accidents, that take up PD's time of anywhere from 1 hour to 8 hours to 12 hours, fire department's time, public works time. You have them going, you have truck drivers going through neighborhoods, pulling down power lines. That one was an 18-hour closure. So if this can be out 6 months, maybe, if any other cities have a reimbursement clause where if you're caught DUI, exhibition of speed, you know, you're breaking the law in the sense you were driving 100 miles an hour and you caused a fatal accident. And we were out there anywhere from, like I said, it could be 2 to 12 hours that we're out there. PD's out there, fire's out there, and public works out there. So I don't know if it has to be a muni code because we're gonna ask for reimbursement of time and equipment, or if it just has to be in a policy. That's what I would like to see. That's my motion.
Okay. Is there a second? Chair second. Madam Clerk, vote please.
Councilmember Becerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez. Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
No.
Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Tie vote, motion fails.
Thank you. All right. So at this point, the chair requests an agenda item for our next meeting in which the city manager and the city attorney revise our policy such that we have a prohibition against taking into closed session any electronic items such as telephone, iPads, laptops, etc. And that would be an item for action.
I'll second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez. Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
No.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Tie vote, motion fails.
Thank you very much. All right, with that said, we're going to move to our final item this evening, which is reports from council members. We're going to begin with Member Gomez.
Quiero hablar en español en mi comunidad.
Member Gomez, we're in the meeting. You do not speak
Muchas
Spanish.
gracias por estar aquí. Más del 50% de la comunidad en Victorville es hispana y me gusta decirlo en español y en inglés.
So to our audience, it's the chair's duty to facilitate these meetings such that they align with this council's high governance standards. When Member Gomez communicates during agenda items in languages unknown to the chair, other council members and staff, and to the public, she obstructs the chair's ability to administer the meeting fairly and effectively and subjugates best practices in governance to her personal inclination and disrespects her colleagues, none of which the chair is going to allow. That said, Member Gomez may speak anytime, and she knows us as a member of the audience in public comment. She can use any language that she chooses to, but while behind the dais, it is English only as per our policy manual. Member Gomez, you're free to continue. Madam Clerk, please unmute the mic.
Okay, so what I said in Spanish, I always translate, which is thank you very much to my community. My community has been very, very supportive, and that's why I sit in this position. The city of Victorville has over 50% Hispanic population. And so I am very endeared to my community, and I always want to speak the language that we speak, whether I use language in Spanish, language in English, or American Sign Language, because it's not my personal interest. The voters use different languages, and I was privileged enough to have different distinct cultures and also languages that could create a barrier for government, and to ensure that the government is bringing trust is what I want to protect. So I'm sorry, did you have something to add? I guess not. So what I typically do is I do a lot of door knocking, and I give my cell phone to people. So when there's an issue, family, cops, grand jury, judges, city councils, I am the first and the foremost person that I sit with you on your issues, and I send those issues straight to those government offices, because what we are beginning to see is a lack of interest in our community members. A lot of them are very, very, very low income. I'm one of those. That's why you'll hear a lot of, we'll take the stipend from the council member, but that won't harm me one bit because I've survived as a student working on a PhD for such a long time that you can only empower me. And that's how I help empower the community to say, you know what? You can run for office as I did. You need $0, just the desire and the passion to go for it. And guess what? You're probably going to get a seat because your voice is so important, just as mine is. And this is what I bring to the table. Some people may like it. Some people may not like it. But today I'm here, and today I'm that voice of the people that decided to vote in me. Whether you're immigrant, you have the status to vote, or you don't, I represent you. I will go to your house, help you with what's going on, code enforcement, which I have. I consistently do that. Code enforcement sees me there all the time. George Duran knows it. Speaking Spanish, helping the members, anything I can do for my general public, for the community, it's like my blood. I was raised as a foster kid, and guess what? It comes from those roots. I know what it is to feel harmed and to feel trauma. So yes, so I am speaking to the people, and this is what I do. So this is in the most captioned moment that I can provide to you. This is my voice. My voice will never be shut down. Thank you.
All right. So, you know, the chair, it is the chair's opinion. She really loves to give latitude in this area. However, this Member Gomez completely took advantage of this agenda item. The agenda item is meant to make reports. All right, and so forth. So, all right, with that said, Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say, I want to report out on my behavior. I've said before that, you know, in the spirit of democracy, it's majority rules. And I've said before on this dais that this is a one man, one vote kind of situation. I pride myself on studying and doing my homework, coming to council meeting prepared. My vote is not for sale. I'm not just going along doodly-loodly to get along. That's not it. If I am trying to get an understanding about what I'm voting on, I expect you, Madam Mayor, to allow me to do so. You are appointed by this council. You're not an elected mayor. I know, but I understand what it's like to sit in your seat. Please don't think I don't.
Please speak.
I'm speaking to this entire council. I think that your mannerism is toxic for this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Member Becerra.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To the public listening, everything in the city of Victorville is public record. Not one of us is above the laws and the rules in place by the city. So don't be fooled by any one council member sits up here, and you've seen that. You need a vote of 3 to make anything happen. So if somebody, one of our council members, is out of line by thinking they run everything here, they don't. Anything you want to know is public record. They have a way to go about doing it. Ask for what's going on. So one council member does not control what's going on. We have nothing to do with immigration. We have nothing to do with the lawyers. We have nothing to do with the courthouse. We have nothing to do with the police department in a sense, just their contract. They have their own laws and rules they have to follow, not that the city gives them. So it's been a bad meeting today, and that's all I'd like to say.
Thank you, Member Becerra. All right, as to reports for council member. First and foremost, I attended the routine annual meeting with VVWRA's auditor, and mayors met for the first time with about 30 local clergy to fill them in on their city's happenings and what's on the horizon. That was a fabulous opportunity. I attended the Fall Festival this weekend and thoroughly enjoyed story time, reading to the children in attendance at the Fall Festival. And then also just to be very clear, so it's unfortunate that things got a bit heated behind this dais, and certainly the mayor doesn't wish anyone to unduly take things in a personal way. The chair has a tough job in facilitating meetings to make sure that it's fair and equitable for everyone, and that the meeting moves on in a meaningful way. And sometimes that's difficult. So reporting on my own behavior, you know, I gave my colleague council members several opportunities to ask questions rather than having signed conversations. And so the member was not shut down. The member refused to ask questions and instead chose to have a side conversation. All right, with that said,
You are not to use the poll to rebuke your council.
that said, the chair,
Just as evil as all of us are put together, right? Is that
Member
what you're saying?
Gomez is out of order.
So are
All
you,
right.
Deborah Jones.
So with that said, that concludes our business for this evening. And as a matter of housekeeping, all council members, staff, and audience members will kindly vacate council chambers and City Hall within 10 minutes. That's 8:12, so that these facilities may be cleaned and secured for the evening. No members of the audience are permitted behind the dais. This meeting is adjourned.